y'all, I'm Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. I am working in this video on my 100-day project for 2024 and it is my hashtag not precious project in which I am taking things that for some reason or other I have deemed too precious to use and have just hoarded them in my stash. So I've got this board book. This is, I think, part 7 of the book, and it's days 15, 16, and 17 of the 100-day project. So this board book wasn't the precious item. The precious item were some of the papers I used in it, as well as some of the pieces that I am adding to it. I will direct you to the playlist I've created for this project, and you can kind of start there at the beginning, or yeah, I've also got a like part 1 of this altered board book, because there's at least one more part, I believe, to it before I finish this book out. So the first thing I did is I took a little piece of paper, y'all. I think that's some more of the washi, which is Japanese rice paper that I've been using. I think that's what it is. It could be something else. I don't know. I used it and some rusty tea dye and made just like some little lines to put in the center of this spread. This is the 5th and final spread of this little board book. And I found that the centers were tearing and like you could see the board book underneath. And so I've been just like covering them up a little bit with something. I used some matte gel medium to put that little piece of whatever paper that is, I don't know, in there. And now I have some DecoArt's Chalky Gesso. Oh, I can't think of the color. I will put it down below. This is not in its original container. It's some that Nina Fickett sent me from her stash. She put it in a separate container and put some of that press and seal, I think, stuff on it, and yeah, sent it to me. So I decided to go ahead and put, I think this may be the first time I used it. Put a little bit in my book, and now I've got a blue Stabilo all pencil that I'm going around these finger dots that I made with that Chalky Gesso. And yeah, this, I will admit that this spread, had me in fits. It's another one. My favorite ones are the ones that took me a quick one day, no problem to do. So that was spreads, I think, 1, 2, and 4. 3 and 5 have been difficult for me, so they took me a little bit longer. And they're also not my favorites, so that should tell me something. Okay, so once I got that Stabilo down, you can see I'm just taking a wet paintbrush and activating that Stabilo that's around those finger dots, just letting them bleed and blend, and I don't know, I really like this effect. Now I've got some Distress Oxide spray, and I believe that's Rustic Wilderness. It's just a little one that I think I got with a couple other colors, or maybe, I don't even remember where I got it, y'all, but I love this color. Love it. So I'm going to spray it in here. I felt like I was going to do a green because I had done some blue spreads and a yellow spread. And I think for here I thought, a green one, kind of combining those colors would be really neat. But yeah, I'm going to end up using all the colors in this spread. But I started with the idea of using green. Once I got the Distress Oxide down, I did spray it with some water to like activate it, because that's when some of the magic happens with the Distress Oxides. And once it's dry, I'm breaking out the crackle paste. Now I'm going to use 2 different crackle pastes. This first one is the opaque one from Ranger. And you can see I'm using a palette knife to just spread it out kind of more organically. Now, if you've never used crackle paste, let me tell you, the thicker you put it on, the bigger your cracks, and the thinner, the like smaller and more fine they are. As well, check the directions for the crackle paste you get. There are several different brands, but for the most part, it does the best crackle job if you leave it to dry naturally. You can heat dry a crackle paste, but I found that the best crackles come when you allow it to just air dry over time. So you've got to kind of, maybe not plan ahead, but just kind of expect that that's what's going to happen. So I also have this transparent crackle paste from Ranger, and I'm kind of doing the same effect, and I'm doing it kind of in the same area that I've done the white crackle, but off from it. So like it goes from opaque to transparent, if that makes sense. Yeah. So again, I'm going to leave these to dry. I should also mention that I found pretty early on when I added the papers to this board book that it quickly got out of its wanting to close phase. If you've ever bought like a little board book, you know that they come pretty compact and just like a little brick with pages almost, and fold together really neatly. Well, once I started adding things to it, mine stopped closing, and I kind of rode that wave of like, okay, well, I'm gonna just put chunky stuff in it, and this may never close completely again. And I had to accept that. That was hard for me, but I did it. Now I have a piece. This is it's a 10, I believe. I think it's a 10, from a spring from a watch. Yes, it's a watch spring at 10 that I use some of that chalky gesso kind of just to have a color in the background, but then I'm using some beacon tacky glue and a little bit of reindeer moss. Both of these things I have bought at the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna stick that reindeer moss right in there and kind of just, yeah, shove it in, push it down, let it do its thing. I love that stuff, y'all. I love it's like a little bit of organic nature. It feels, I don't know, woodsy and beautiful to me. Now I have this little bowl, y'all, of acorns that I made out of I think I've got a reel somewhere, and I'll try to, if I can find that reel, maybe put it. I may actually have it here on YouTube, but if not, I have it on Instagram, and it's a reel of me making, or at least sharing, these little acorn cap mushrooms. So basically they're acorns and a piece of stick, and I painted the acorn caps and used hot glue to stick it all together, and I made like that little whole bowl full because I couldn't stop. I've even collected more acorn caps in different sizes so I can make different sizes of them. It's a problem. And I have not used any of them. They've become too precious. So look at me using one. I've got my E6000 that I put on the parts that will touch. So both on the cap and on that stick. So they're both stuck into that reindeer moss. So I pressed that down and held it for a little while, and I'm leaving it to dry, and have turned to this piece of it's a flour sack towel that I have rust dyed. It's got some really yummy stuff on it. I think based on the fact that that's got some browns on it, it's probably another black tea rust dye. So I snipped off a little bit of that and decided I kind of want to put that somehow in this. And I think that bit of flour sack towel has probably also been in my stash for a while and too precious. Now, I don't know if you can see what I've also got there, but it's a little star. It's an adornment from Tim Holtz, and they're these little metal stars that were in my, when I started this project, I pulled out a bunch of stuff that were like things I could pull from for the project, and those little stars were in that. So yeah, it's going to get pulled into this page eventually. Now I wanted to write a word I wanted to stitch a word onto this bit of fabric. So I'm using my Stabilo all pencil to write the word, and the word is believe. And I'm using the Stabilo all pencil because it's an all pencil, and all pencil means it writes on all surfaces. And y'all, it does. It writes on glass and plastic and wood and metal and all surfaces. I haven't tried all surfaces, but I've tried quite a few. So once I got my believe written there, I've got some red thread, and I am going to do my best to stitch it. I got far too much thread, y'all. It's already tangling. So I'm showing y'all that I'm starting this. I did it off camera because it was so fiddly. I just stitched over the lines that I had created and tied it off. So now that's done, I'm going to move it around, and you see I've done it in red. That's because I've got the red on those little mushrooms. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll bring the red in here as well on this other side of the page. So since I knew I was doing the mushrooms over on the right side, I decided I'm going to put the believe over on the left side. Yeah, and for some reason I keep checking my watch. I don't know what was going on, so I apologize for that. Now I'll use the E6000 on the back of that watch spring 10 and go ahead and stick it into my book. And then I'll use Fabri-Tac on the back of my fabric. Fabri-Tac, yeah. I am very, very much a proponent of use the glues. I mean, use what you have first and foremost. But if I have a glue that does a better job than something else, I will pull out that other glue. But in general, a good tacky glue or really strong Elmer's glue, like something like that, can work depending on what you're doing. I mean, honestly, an Elmer's glue would work fine on that fabric. Okay, so I have glued both of those things down. I've got that star there I'm futzing with. I'm pulling these, and I think those stars may be in two different sizes, maybe more. I don't remember. So I've decided I'm going to alter it. You see the lights changed, so I'm not sure if I came back another day, what day is in the process of this, but I've pulled out my little bucket of like stuff I use to alter things, to change the color, the texture, whatever of them. And I'm using some foundry wax from Tim Holtz. And I don't remember what color this is. It looks like it's the brassy gold one. I've not gotten real good at. I know one's called like statue and one's called no. Yeah, I can't. I don't remember what they're called. There's two sets, and yeah, I know that there's two sets, and they're called a wax. They come out as a fluid, as a liquid, but as they're exposed to air, they will dry, like harden into a wax. When you heat them with a heat tool like I am now, they get a bit more shiny. So that's this whole process. So I've included the heating of it here just in case you can see. I can't see it on here, but my little view screen here is kind of small. So once I got that on there, I decided to go ahead and add some of that opaque crackle paste to give it, and it's still hot. Do you see me pulling my fingers off of it? I added some of the opaque crackle paste to it, and of course that means I think I had to switch to a smaller brush to get like in it. And this was an experiment. I really didn't know what was going to happen here, how this crackle paste would dry on this. And I have to tell you that I think it's the texture of this, or maybe the metal, or maybe because I put that layer, that wax down. But it does, or even maybe because I ended up pulling in these mica powders. I've got this gold one, and then I've got like an iridescent one, like an opalescent one that I'm gonna just sprinkle on both of these on this. I've got both of those I will sprinkle on here. Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and that's while that crackle paste is still wet. So yeah, there are all kinds of factors that may have contributed to what comes out in the end of this star. So once we're going to put this on there, and I'm going to step away. I don't remember at what point I come back to the star or what I do next. We'll see. But that greeny opalescent e-color I added because of the greens that are in that page. It kind of matched. So while that's drying, I came back into my journal here. Board book. With my Stabilo All pencil again in black, and I'm going over the crackled areas. Basically, I want to bring out the cracks a little bit more, so I am wetting that Stabilo. I just scribbled it on there, y'all, and I'm spreading it out, and then I will grab a paper towel and blot up some of the wetness and clean it up. I think that's what I've got, yeah. So you can see that some of that's coming back, but I'll be able to see the cracks a little bit more. So I'm doing the page on the right, and then I will do the same thing on the page on the left. Y'all, this like I said, I struggled with this one quite a bit. There's something about this journal in the end, I'm hoping, I don't know if I will try to make sure that the this last bit, I kind of show y'all the story that progresses, or at least the story that's in my head with this board book that I created when it comes to the end of it. Yeah, it worked in my head, but it may not be what everybody else can see. All right, so once I have that crackle paste kind of accented in there, you can see, I'm kind of looking at it, thinking about it. What do I want to do? Oh, I'm also checking to make sure I got all of the crackle paste accented, because apparently I missed that area up there, because it's clear crackle. And I'm here, I've got the book in front of me. I'm trying to see if you can even see it. Yeah, you absolutely can see that little bit of crackle in there. The transparent definitely has like a shine to it that the opaque doesn't. So it gives it's almost like a sparkle because it's crackled. So it's, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Because of all the crackles, give it like facets, like a diamond would have. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a weird, neat effect. I like it. I like crackle. It's my jam. All right, so I have come back to this and I'm trying to brush off the excess of the mica powders. And in doing this, yeah, I'm going to use a smaller brush, and some of the crackle just kind of breaks off. So you can see here, I'm going to just start like pulling it off. Brushing off anything that wants to come off is what I end up doing, because I don't want anything that's in there that's just going to fall off and not be what I thought it was going to be. So, well, and I say that, but I've got the fern in the previous page that I know at some point it'll just fall to pieces. Yeah, I was really not happy with that star. I was like, I'm just going to put it off to the side and work on something else. Oh no, I put it off to the side and decided what I wanted was some Quinacridone Nickel Azo Gold, which to me feels a bit like rust and makes everything a little bit better. And since I have rust on that stitch piece, I thought maybe that would work. So I'm going over it with that Quinacridone Nickel Azo Gold from Golden. It's a fluid acrylic. I don't know if you can get it anymore. I recently found that you can find Azo Gold, but not Nickel Azo Gold. So I don't know. It looks like the same color, but I'm not positive. It's very similar. Anyway, I painted that on there, and yeah, you see I'm okay about it, and I'm gonna think, and yeah, there's lots of like flipping between things, and I decided I needed to soften this up just a little bit. So I'm bringing in some lace, and I'm gonna futz with this and the placement of it, and yeah, I think this is part of a tablecloth, so I'm kind of like looking at it, trying to like. And I think I also wanted to make sure I didn't like overuse the lace in this. That's why I flipped back through there. But I don't know, there's something about the femininity and the texturalness of a lace that I really, really do love. So I'm cutting off one of the bits. I'm sorry that is off camera where you can't see it, but I was trying not to damage too much of it in my cutting of it. I will come back in. Yeah, so I've got this whole little section here and I'm playing with it. So I'm going to cut that down. That's obviously too big for my page. And I do like it, so I'm going to kind of put it in this corner here. And while that is super neat and kind of cool, you know, it's neat. It kind of looks like a banner or something hanging there. I do like it, but in a second here, I'm going to turn it. First, I'm going to do some scribbles with my Chalky pencil to give a little bit more movement in the background. And some of that center that I had glued down is starting to come up, partly because I use that pencil and it like hits against the side of it and lifts it. And I'm guessing that tacky glue was the most handy thing I had. So that's why it got used. Yeah, sometimes I'll use the correct glue, and because I bet you a glue stick would have worked just fine there too. But I turned that bit of lace on top of my tin there, and it looked like a crown. So I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And then, I don't know, y'all, I felt like I needed a rainbow. I had added so many colors, and I'll tell you, this is my second attempt with this. And it is some tracing paper that I've cut down, and watercolors. And you can see I'm doing like a primary red, a primary yellow, and a primary blue and trying to get them to blend together to make the full spectrum. I also didn't want the really harsh edge on them, and I'll add some purple down or violet at the bottom just to make sure that it's in there as well. Okay, so once that is done, like I said, this was my second time going through this. I'll dry this before they can blend too much, and I'll pull in some metallic watercolors and add some splatter to the top of it, just to give it some sparkle. This whole little book is about magic and imagination and that kind of thing. So, and there's something about a little bit of metallic sparkle that really fuels that for me. So I'm adding in, I don't even remember what colors I added on here. I think, oh gosh, I can't even tell you. It may have, I don't know. I keep saying that I can't tell you because I really can't. But I splattered some metallic watercolors, dried that, and I'm going to tear it down because I don't want that extra bit of like frostiness. I just want that bit of rainbow. So I'm going to look at it thinking it's going to go up against that tin with the mushroom in it. And I will say, I was a little hasty in gluing down the tin and the believe. But at the same time, I don't think I would have made some of the decisions had I not done that. Like, in my head, it was like, well, it's too late. I've already added this on there, so now I've got to work with it. So it really helped push me forward to keep going with this spread, even though some of it was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? All right, so I finally figured out where I wanted to put that rainbow and adjust my lace, and I'm taking that little bit of excess tissue paper that I had splattered and took it to my typewriter and typed up the words, "You are the key." And that is all going to tie in because on the front of my little journal, on page 1, I put a keyhole, and I felt like that was important to kind of end this with, it starts with the keyhole, which is locked and you can't get in, and it's ending kind of with "you are the key." And then on the back of it, I'm going to add a key. But spoiler. I'm going to add a key on that back page. So, like I said, in my head, this was all a story. So I did tear down that bit of tissue paper that had my typing on it and inked the edges with some distress ink in walnut stain. And now I'm going to glue these bits in using my Oohoo glue stick, since that's just some lightweight tissue paper. That's all I need is my glue stick, and I'm trying to get that like fit in there underneath that tin. And yeah, so I'm going to flatten my little rainbow down, and I'll use the same Oohoo glue stick to glue my sentiment down. Fortunately, I did not lose it on my desk, which would totally track with how I usually work. And then I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for the lace and E6000 for the stars. Bringing it all in, y'all. But we are finishing this little spread up here. It was lots of fetzing, lots of little elements, but that's been this whole book. This whole book to me is a bit of a treasure. There's all kinds of beautiful little bits in it that really just, they make me smile. So it's worth it. And I had made all these things so precious, and now this book is precious. I created something that's even more precious. So once I get my little star glued down, I think that's going to be it. And I decided to put it over here by the believe, just to have something else on that left side. And you can see it. This book kind of is wonky, so the pictures that I have at the end of it for you are a bit wonky too. I had to kind of stand it up and everything to get the pictures. But if you have any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you have any questions about my 100-day project or the 100-day project in general, mixed media, anything, ask away. I am happy to take your questions. If you like this, I would appreciate you give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see y'all later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.